All right, we are live. We are waiting for everyone to click that button to get back into a new room. People are coming in and saying, hi, Laura. Welcome to Laura. Yay, Laura. A lot of Laura fans in the house. So this is really fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to keep the introduction very short because the focus is on the presentation. So we have Laura Tiebert with us with Follow the Yellow Brick Road, Diamonds and Pearls. Take it away, Laura.
All right. Well, D'Angela, thank you so much for inviting me. It is an honor to be here with, so many Prince thinkers I admire. And so are you guys ready to go strolling down the Yellow Brick Road? Here we go. Prince's 1991 smash album, Diamonds and Pearls. This is what Prince said after the commercial disappointment of Graffiti Bridge. He told USA Today, "It was one of the purest, most spiritual, uplifting things I've ever done. Maybe it'll take people 30 years to get it. They trashed The Wizard of Oz at first, too." So I got a question for you guys. Do you think an album can feel like a color? Because if it can, Diamonds and Pearls feels yellow to me. Yellow is the color of optimism and creativity. And as we've seen from the presentations earlier today, Prince wore the color yellow often in his stage costumes during this period. He also drove a canary yellow BMW and even painted his house on Galpin Road yellow. You can see those, the car and the house in the video for Gangster Glam. So Diamonds and Pearls to me feels like the sun coming out after a storm. And maybe that storm was the heavy criticism of Graffiti Bridge. Whatever it was, Diamonds and Pearls makes me feel a certain way. And I was listening to the keynote last night, and I heard I think it was Sam Jennings who said that The Rainbow Children was a very heady album. But I find Diamonds and Pearls a very emotional album. And I enjoy it most when I just feel it and I don't overthink it. Diamonds and Pearls, the song, it always makes me tear up. Cream uplifts me, and Daddy Pop puts a smile on my face. So even despite disappointment of Graffiti Bridge, Diamonds and Pearls sees Prince reveling in his music. He's got a really great new band. This early iteration of the new power generation included some of its very best players. And bolstered by the family-like atmosphere the band created, Prince wrote an album that served first to encourage himself about his own abilities and shore up his confidence. And second, served as an exhortation to us all to feel the same way about ourselves. The liner notes for Diamonds and Pearls include acknowledgments ranging from insomnia to Glam Slam, with the final tip of Prince's fedora going to the Wizard of Oz. With all the yellow Prince wore and drove and lived in at the time, I couldn't help but think of the phrase, "follow the yellow brick road," when I read the Wizard of Oz reference in the acknowledgments. So 3 years later, can we better understand Diamonds and Pearls by considering the songs as reminders that, like Dorothy, we've had the power all along? So let's look at the events in Prince's life leading up to Diamonds and Pearls. We know from The Beautiful Ones, his autobiography, that Prince made scrapbooks. So here's a scrapbook of Prince's late 1989 to 1990. Glam Slam opened in Minneapolis in late '89. And Prince wrote the title track, Diamonds and Pearls, in December of that year. January of 1990, as Karen alluded to, Sinead O'Connor released Nothing Compares to You, and it became a worldwide hit. In February of 1990, filming began on Graffiti Bridge. And by June, Prince was already on the nude tour of Europe and Asia. In August, Graffiti Bridge, the album was released. Like Love Sexy, unfortunately, it sold under 1 million copies. There's Prince at the Graffiti Bridge premiere in New York. It was panned by critics. This was November 1st, 1990. It was panned by critics and ushered from theaters after grossing just 4.2 million. In December of 1990, Prince wrote the song Cream, and work on what would become the Diamonds and Pearls album began in earnest. By March of 1991, Prince would present an initial configuration of songs to Warner Brothers, and on October 1st, 1991, Diamonds and Pearls was released 11 months to the day after the premiere of the Graffiti Bridge movie. So in contrast to his two previous albums, Batman and Graffiti Bridge, which relied heavily on songs from the vault, Diamonds and Pearls had all new songs that were recorded in an 18-month period. But it wasn't just the music that was new. Prince had a new look, which we've heard a lot about today, and he's looking so sharp. And he had a look that was really kind of Prince bringing this cosmopolitan glamour to Minneapolis. And he also had a new sound thanks to this new band. While Prince had been using the phrase "the new power generation" since Love Sexy, Diamonds and Pearls is the first album to be credited to Prince and the New Power Generation. So I just have to talk for a quick minute about this band because it really was an extraordinary lineup. The core members of the lineup were bassist Sonny Thompson, who had been Prince's mentor, someone he'd known since childhood, and who he and, Andre Simone looked up to, almost like he was like a Stevie Wonder figure to them growing up on the north side of Minneapolis. Levi Caesar Jr., guitarist, he'd been part of Sheila E.'s band, and he had first come on board for the '87 Sign of the Times tour. Drummer Michael Bland, who Caesar had met at Bunker's Bar in Minneapolis and brought into the fold. And then keyboardist Tommy Elm, who'd been backing the Minneapolis soul gospel group, The Steels. He was quickly renamed Tommy Barbarella by Prince. Rounding out the band were vocalist and keyboardist Rosie Gaines and rapper Tony Mosley. These musicians would form the core of the first band that Prince would record with regularly since the disbanding of the Revolution in 1986. Diamonds and Pearls saw Prince competing with the charts. Some albums are Prince writing less accessible music, and other Prince competing with the charts. And Diamonds and Pearls is definitely the latter. And I think for that reason, it's fair to say some of the songs on the album feel dated. When you're writing to compete with what's popular on the charts in any given era, it's really no surprise that, the songs will eventually sound, of a certain time and place. And to that point, I don't want to ignore the elephant in the room whenever we discuss Diamonds and Pearls, and that is Tony Mosley's rap contributions. A lot has been written about his rapping and his role as the group's MC. His contributions were definitely a controversial new addition to Prince's sound. And for many, a large part of why some of them sound dated, like, maybe Push and Jughead. Some say that they haven't aged well. In retrospect, I'm not sure that the criticisms of Tony M are entirely fair. Over time, it's become clear that Prince was the one who was really calling the shots. And Prince had clear ideas about how to use rap in his music. And Tony M was working to make the best out of the situation as he could. So, for him to have gotten all the blame for that, I think in retrospect is perhaps a little unfair. So that's my statement on Tony M. But, what isn't controversial about the album is the marketing. And Prince had hired Frank DeLeo, who had managed Michael Jackson, to promote Diamonds and Pearls. And as a result, this was a well-marketed album that had a huge promotional push behind it. It, as Karen said, reached number 3 on the pop charts, number 1 on the R&B charts, sold more than 5 million albums. And there were 4 Billboard Hot 100 hits, in addition to Cream and Diamonds and Pearls. Get Off peaked at number 21 in October 91, and Money Don't Matter Tonight peaked at number 23. So, Diamonds and Pearls also was, a very well-documented period of Prince's career, as we've seen in the prior presentations. That Arsenio Hall show in particular featured a stellar performance by the band and is recognized as one of the very best televised performances of Prince's career. The album became far more successful than Love Sexy and Graffiti Bridge. And as a result, Prince was able to mount a massive tour of Japan, Australia, and Europe. Musically, Diamonds and Pearls showcased Prince's ability to play all styles of music and to make them indelibly his own. Levi Caesar Jr. had told Michael Dean that Prince said the bar for him was never current artists. It was Sly, Fleetwood Mac, James Brown. He'd say we're always going to be a little bit old school. But Tom Moon, the critics were really underwhelmed, and Tom Moon of the Philadelphia Inquirer called it horrendously basic. The Los Angeles Times gave the album 2 stars and declared Prince had lost his daring songwriting edge. Band members, however, witnessed Prince in the studio searching for a sound and a visual style that made sense in the context of rap and hip hop. And here is what drummer Michael Bland told Rolling Stone. We slowly watched it come into shape, lyrically, and the influence of modern black soul, sort of hip hop. He was really trying to still be him and navigate through that whole early 90s phenomenon. Levi Caesar Jr. echoed Michael B. when he told the podcast on Prince that Prince was trying to, quote, find a balance between real playing and hip hop with a Prince twist on it. So that's the album musically. Now let's shift over to consider the lyrics of the album Diamonds and Pearls from the point of view of Prince as a writer. While it's true that writers write to be read, even before they think of being read, they write to figure things out for themselves. They write to be in conversation with themselves on paper, or as novelist Joan Didion once said, I write to know what I think. You could call this paper thinking. So what can we understand about Prince's mindset from his paper thinking in Diamonds and Pearls? The majority of songs on the album, by my estimation, I'd say fully like 9 of the 13 songs, could be viewed as Prince encouraging himself, and by extension, encouraging us about the power and like intelligence, really, that each of us has. So from Daddy Pop, Diamonds and Pearls, Cream, Willing and Able, Walk, Don't Walk, Push, Live for Love, all these can be seen as Prince, the writer, encouraging himself to push ahead after a challenging period in his career. Diamonds and Pearls is Prince's declaration that while the journey down the yellow brick road to self-empowerment is filled with challenges, confidence and trust in ourselves and our abilities is the key that will ultimately open the gates of Oz. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at Prince's words. We're going to look at the first 4 songs of the album, and that is Thunder, Daddy Pop, Diamonds and Pearls, and Cream. So Thunder, Prince opens the album with a storm, not unlike the tornado that opens The Wizard of Oz. If you live in the Midwest, you know what it is to hear the tornado sirens and head to the basement for cover. A storm represents an unpleasant event in our lives that moves us to a higher place. So, for example, had Dorothy not been transported to Oz by a tornado, she would never have attained the growth and realization of her power that she eventually did. So the song Thunder can be seen as representing the storms of Prince's career, or even an internal tension that eventually brought him to a higher place. Next up is Daddy Pop. So When the tornado strikes in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy grabs Toto and runs for the cellar. Prince might not have a traditional root cellar like Dorothy's Auntie Em did, but he sure does have a groove cellar in the form of the famed vault. So when the storm hits, Prince is prepared. He's got shelves full of grooves, deep purple Concord jams, as he sings, stashed in the vault. Daddy Pop, who's of course Prince, is working behind the walls of Paisley Park. And Daddy Pop sure does feel a whole lot like the wizard working behind the curtain. Next, we come to Diamonds and Pearls. And in the liner notes to Prince's first greatest hits collection, The Hits, Prince called this song, quote, one of his most prized possessions. At this point in the album, this is where the creator, God, steps into the picture and he addresses Prince. So hang with me on this. Listen to Diamonds and Pearls again from the point of view of God speaking to Prince. So God says, if I gave you diamonds and pearls, would you be a happy boy or a girl? So one interpretation of that lyrics is that diamonds and pearls are wealth, and the song is saying, in essence, wealth is not the answer to happiness, something that will be echoed later in the album with Money Don't Matter Tonight. But equally, I believe Prince has stored up other treasures. In the Diamonds and Pearls tour book, Prince wrote an artistic statement that's printed on the inside back cover, and its focus was his creative process. So I'm gonna read to you what he wrote. Here, music is made out of necessity. It's a fact of life. The voice inside tells you when there is a song to be born. All children are born beautiful. How they are perceived is another matter indeed. That could maybe be a reference to the critics, I guess. But much like an unborn child, Prince writes, a song is never conceived whole. That would be like taking dictation. Pleasure comes from not knowing what your baby's character will be like. Pleasure comes from the nurturing process. So the Diamonds and Pearls, I believe, are Prince's songs. They come from God. If I gave you diamonds and pearls, right, and are a gift from God. Just as Dorothy's ruby slippers represent her potential power, Prince's diamonds and pearls represent his. So if I could, I would give you the world, God tells Prince. All I can do is offer you my love. So this, to me, is one of Prince's definitive statements about his vision of love. The world is ours if only we can overcome guilt or shame or what have you to accept this gift from God. If only we cannot open ourselves to creativity, fulfillment is ours. Until then, God will be there steadfastly offering his love. God's unconditional love for us, the message of Diamonds and Pearls. On to something more lighthearted, Cream. So critics said Prince was done after Graffiti Bridge. And I believe that Cream, written 1 month after the movie premiere, so Cream was written December 3rd, 1990, that was a direct response. Prince said he wrote Cream standing in the mirror. And if you were watching Saturday Night Live back during this era of the early 90s, you might recall a recurring skit called Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy, in which actor Al Franken looks into the mirror and repeats, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Mirror thoughts were part of the self-improvement zeitgeist of the early 90s. So Cream has Prince talking to himself positively to assuage any fears or self-doubt. It is a song of encouragement, but it's equally full of innuendos to be sexy. Cream is not only one of Prince's biggest hits, but a central song on this album. Prince declares his belief in himself and demonstrates through the very origins of this song what he's capable of. Prince is someone who can play all styles of music and make them his own. He can take an already great song, Bang a Gong, by 1970s British glam rock band T-Rex, and turn it into a Prince song. That's how Mark Bolan singing You're Dirty Sweet and You're My Girl becomes Prince singing You're Filthy Cute and Baby You Know It. I'm not going to talk through the rest of the album, but I just had to review how the album continues and give you a few beautiful photos of Prince. Insatiable, like one of his great slow jams. So here's the man behind the curtain, to Oz. And Prince toasted to writer Alan Light using that toast, I think in 1994, he said, to Oz. At the Xenophobia event at Paisley Park in June 2002, Prince told the fans who were assembled, the man behind the curtain, each of you needs to become the man behind the curtain. Diamonds and Pearls is Prince's declaration that while the journey down the yellow brick road to self-empowerment is filled with challenges, confidence and faith in ourselves is the key that will ultimately open the gates of Oz. In closing, I'd like to leave you guys with 2 words: Jughead sucks. And I couldn't resist. And here's how you can follow me at lauratiebert.com. You can learn more about a 12-week online course I'm teaching called What Would Prince Do? We start June 7th. So please come on over to lauratiebert.com, sign up for my email list. That would be fantastic. And thank you so much again, Angela, for this opportunity.
You are welcome. And I love people who have opinions. So I appreciate your final 2 words. All right. So we're going to make the quick switch to another room so we can actually ask questions of Laura as well as Karen and Malay and all the other wonderful presentations that we had. So we're going to do it with the quickness because we're almost back on track. Almost, but we're still off by 7 minutes. So come on over to the next session. Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.